14 pitfalls every ADHD CEO should avoid at all costs. So if you're a guy or a girl with ADHD and you decided to start your own company and then you found out that being a CEO is not easy. Why? Because there is a list of principles that you will need to follow in order to be successful. Otherwise, you will derail. So we start with the first one, and it's the operator trap. And what I mean by that is when you're an ADHD CEO, you might think you can do everything all by yourself, which means you can be the COO and the CEO. And your role as the CEO is to make your company as successful as possible. A lot of the time you might find yourself down in the trenches trying to look at the nitty-gritty of things and making sure everything functions smoothly. But the moment you do that, you get lost. You get lost from the vision. So when you're an ADHD CEO, what you need to make sure you avoid is this trap where you're not going to be a CEO and a COO at the same time. Find yourself someone to manage the business as soon as you can. And don't just take this advice at face value and give your business to anyone. Make sure you give it to the right person. Now, number 2 is the idea fire hose. So if you're an ADHD CEO, one of the things that are gonna happen is that you will have 50 ideas per week. And when you do have that, then you will find yourself not focusing on the main mission. We know that you're an ADHDer. However, you cannot just say yes to everything. You gotta say no to a lot of the things. As Bill Gates, as Mark Zuckerberg, as all of these big entrepreneurs say, focus is key. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people. As you can see, my companies are all about ADHD. And I'm one of those guys who are going to have 20,000 ideas a day, unfortunately. But I want you to avoid being like that, because just like me, I have said yes to a lot of these things and I have been broke all the time as I said yes to all of these things, because I have no discipline to say no, not to invest in my money in new ideas, and not to jump into a new idea that I will lose interest in after a few weeks. 3, the $10 an hour task. Now, this is important to not get distracted with, because a lot of the time we may find ourselves being distracted with $10 an hour tasks, while instead we should be working on the $500 an hour task. If you're a CEO, you need to understand that your goal is, again, as I said before, make your business as successful as possible. Grow it as big as possible, all while delivering value, helping the people that you serve, and possibly having a good life or having a big impact. And if you're stuck doing something that anyone can do, then you are not using your time responsibly, and you, my friend, are getting distracted. 4, weaponized hyperfocus. And that's when you hyperfocus on all of the small things in your business, like the font, the design, and doing that in the hyperfocus mode. Of course, as a founder or a CEO, you want to be involved in a lot of the things that shape the vision of your business. However, don't spend too much time in these things, especially as you're starting out, because that's really not growing the business. You should be on sales calls, you should be selling, you should be working on growth and having a good product, not on what in your mind looks good. Because looking good is subjective. So as long as it looks good enough, focus on what matters. 5, the Tuesday pivot. Basically every Tuesday, you're pivoting. How so? How does this happen? What is the process behind this? Well, the process behind this is when you pivot, it's because you already have like 50 ideas from last week in the idea bank. So when you encounter a problem or an obstacle, what ends up happening is your brain instantly analyzes all of these ideas and is like, you know what? Since this is not working, I'm just gonna jump to the other thing. While instead you should have a decision-making process where you go and you think to yourself, hey, so basically this did not work. Why did it not work? And you have a checklist that you go through. Is it a traffic issue? Is it a landing page issue? Is it a copy issue? Is it a value delivery issue? Is it that the market is too small? All of these things are things to consider when you encounter a problem. Don't just jump to the easiest solution, which is pivoting, which in the end is just going to be more work. Because when you pivot, you start from scratch again. And when you start from scratch again, you encounter new problems. And then the following Tuesday, you end up pivoting. Doesn't make sense, but we all do it. 6, the I'll remember it lie. Your brain is made to generate ideas. It is not made to store ideas. It's meant to find patterns, find solutions, define strategies. But if you think that you're going to probably remember something and tell people, I'll do it later and so on, no, it's not gonna work. You're gonna keep forgetting and you're going to keep letting people down. So write it down. Write it down. 7, toxic perfectionism. Again, it goes back to really focusing on the wrong things. So you think that your product needs to be perfect before you launch it. Or you think that whatever you make needs to be perfect before you put it out in public. Well, let me tell you, nothing is perfect. You're not Apple. You don't need to make things perfect first. You can just launch. That's why beta exists. And I'm not talking about alpha, beta, male, and so on. I'm talking about the beta version of a product. So when you make a beta version of a product, what ends up happening is you give people your product so that they can test it. So if you keep thinking, oh, it has to be perfect, let me tell you one thing. Your product, even when you think it's perfect, it's only perfect in your mind. It's still not perfect. It will still need adjustments and improvements. Number 8, ignoring the cash flow. Well, I understand. Looking at the bank account and seeing how much cash there is left and making projections into the future is something that brings a shit ton of anxiety. And I understand. It's very hard to deal with that. It's scary because cash is king. When you have cash in your business, you are more likely to keep surviving. You deal with less issues. And therefore, if you have expenses, if you need to pay people, if you have obligations, you gotta know your numbers. Even though it brings you anxiety, just face them so you can make more educated decisions. 9, the shiny tool syndrome. A lot of the time, we can be sold a product or software thinking that it's going to be the main thing that's going to build our business, that's going to make our business work. We see all of these things like school, ClickFunnels, and so on. The way they market these things is by telling you, it's not like, oh, create landing pages. No. Oh, create a community. The way they promote them is build a $10,000 a month business, right? And this is just to grab your attention. And this is just to kind of like make your emotions a little bit spicy, right? So that you can make the decision to jump in, so that you can de-rationalize and go buy their product. So I'm gonna tell you right now, tools are not what's going to grow your business. What's going to grow your business is finding the PMF, product market fit. Whatever your product is, you need to show it to the right people and then figure out how you can show it to more of the right people. A tool is not going to be that. You know, every tool has hundreds of other competitors, probably that are even cheaper. So don't get stuck up thinking that you will need some tool to grow your business. Number 10, the hero complex. It's when you jump thinking that you're gonna be the hero every time a problem arises and you have a team, right? So when you have a team, don't play the hero. Let them find the solution, because if you keep jumping in, solving the issue, they're always going to rely on you. And if they always rely on you to find the solution, it's a dysfunctional team. And it's on you to train them to find the solutions, because it's just psychology. Therefore, what you need to put in your mind is when you find a problem and your team finds a problem, encounters a problem, and they call for you, instead of just fixing it right away or going to try to fix it right away, task them to look for the solution themselves. 11, over meeting. Avoid those long meetings in which you do nothing. Like, first of all, when you go into a meeting, set clear intentions and expectations of what is the goal of this meeting. Don't just go into meetings thinking it's just a normal part of doing business and just having meetings and talking about nonsense. So one of the things you need to make sure you do next time you have a meeting is know what is the objective of this meeting, so you don't end up talking about many different ideas. And if you keep talking about different ideas again and again and again, people are going to think you're just a madman, right? So define what your goal from the meeting is and then talk about that. But then if you want to talk about personal stuff a little bit and so on, build some kind of a relationship, build a rapport with the people you work with, that's also good, okay? 12, adrenaline reliance. So waiting until the last minute to do things. This is for freelancers. You're not a freelancer if you don't shape up your business, if you don't create the structure with the help of the operator, then that's not a business. That is not a business, because you're paying people every single month to do their work. And if you're paying people every single month to do their work, every day that is not productive, that is not structured, that is not good, is a day in which you lose money, your business loses money, and over the long term, it's months of losses. Okay? 13, undefined roles. You want to talk to someone you just hired, and another one you just hired, and it's the responsibility of everyone to solve different types of problems. Well, let me tell you, I know that we don't like to get into the nitty-gritty of the details and things with people in terms of conversations, like just keep focusing on one topic until like it's completely clear. I know we don't like to do that, but it's very important to do it. But it goes back to the operator. If you have a good operator, they'll help you do this. So when the responsibility is on everyone, the responsibility is on no one. Right? So therefore, clear expectations of who is responsible of what, who is responsible of putting out fires in which department, in which nature, and so on. Okay? 14, isolating yourself. This is the last one, and it's the last one for a reason. Never be alone, right? Find your community. Find your community of other entrepreneurs. Network with other entrepreneurs. See what works for others. See what doesn't work for others. Don't let yourself and your thoughts be one for a long period of time where you're just like going through thoughts together. That's a recipe from going mad. Don't isolate yourself. Be around people. Talk to people who are just like you. Especially be with people who are more successful than you, or have more energy than you, have more ambition than you in anything, not just in terms of your business, right? So there is something to learn from anyone positive with good intentions and with good ambition. Because I personally don't believe there is something to learn from anyone. Because if you keep getting or giving your time to just absolutely anyone, the depressed guy there, the angry guy there, they're just going to just throw all of that negative energy on you. That's not good. You need energy to make your business work. Have a great day. Bye.